It is.
Alright.
We got a couple minutes, so I'm just gonna wait.
You can't do that. I just started the recording. Will all the recordings be up on? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So it's like it's a quality copy. I'm like, damn, I'm having like some talks over other stuff. Well, nice. Yeah. Hey, do you need battery? You need a plug-in or something?
I have a plug-in, but I'm good. I charged it. So. Everyone, Jason Street. Everyone, Jason Street. Jason Street is in the room. Jason Street's in the room, folks.
Don't be bashful.
Oh, yeah. It is okay to touch Jason Street.
Where in the doll did you touch him?
Alright, so we're going to get started, and what we're going to do is we'll create the right atmosphere, so we're going to turn the lights down low. I'm just kidding. you know, Fishnet Security's handing out those one-time shots. You know, we're going to do the one-time KYs, real quick here, so. Welcome to It's Okay to Touch Yourself. For those who don't know, my name is Ben0xa, not the Cartoon Network character. A little bit about me, I have actually 12 years of experience in healthcare information systems. I'm a vice president and a security officer. Most people wouldn't believe that. In fact, everyone believes that I'm 12. I've actually got the 14 and under badge. Yeah, this has been great. Opening comments, talking about how close everyone was. Yeah, we used Ben as the use case study on that one. Yeah, that was great. We were looking for somebody, and I walked into track 2, and I came back out, and someone came in, and they're like, "What? You can't see over their head sitting down?" It's all good. So it's fun. I enjoy it. I get made fun of my age and the way I look a lot. Because I'm the vice president, I go to a lot of clients, and the CEO of our corporation, she's a woman. And so we go to this client's location, and nice old lady sitting behind the desk, we go to check in, and she checks, the CEO checks in, and the receptionist looks behind, she's like, "Oh, did you bring your son?" I'm like, "Yeah, Mom, I want to go home." I'm a developer, I'm a builder. I've been writing programs since I was 12, when I didn't just look like it. And in fact, one of the first games that I ever wrote was a side-scroller. It was an action game. And you would just, hit the space bar and shoot the other guy. What most people didn't realize is that my friend and I, we decided that every time you killed a guy, it randomly deleted one of your files. So, it was fun until they got to the end of the game. I'm a security consultant, I do training. I deal with a lot of federal regulation oversight, HIPAA, high-tech, PCI, meaningful use, red flag. I manage a team of professionals, but I love games. I'm a total gamer, and I love science fiction. Stargate SG-1 was the best sci-fi, so I'm sorry. As funny as the talk is, I want everyone to know this is actually safe for work. This talk is meant to get your attention and to help you understand my point. But it is going to be okay for you to, to play back at your office or whatever the case may be. There's not going to be anything on there that's completely inappropriate. Maybe edgy, but definitely not completely inappropriate. So I wanted to keep that. By the way, my wife hates the title of this talk. So I want to talk to you guys about a few things. We want to talk about the state of breach detection. I want to talk about doing a self-assessment on yourself. Performing fire drills, some pitfalls to avoid, and then some tools to go over this. But before I get into this, what I did is I actually had an extra ticket to DerbyCon. I bought a ticket just in case, and then I was honored to be able to speak to you guys. And so I had that extra ticket, and I decided I would give it away, but do it in such a way that I could build up my talk. So I said, give me your funniest C-level response when they're told that they're breached. So number 10. And where do we rank with other companies, though? That's impossible. My nephew designed our website. But I thought we were on the cloud. Do you think we got them on CCTV? But we've told everyone they're no longer allowed to have vulnerable systems. Actually happened. But we're still compliant, right? We've been hacked? Wait, that was you, wasn't it? Pretty sure DLP stopped the data leaving. And the winner, Amanda Berlin. That would totally explain the screen. So, I tell you all that, and I do have a Dave Relic story. Part of the reason I decided to do this talk was, last year I had the opportunity to talk about security awareness training. And I wanted to make sure that what I was doing and the results that I was seeing was what actually was being done. And I wanted to put my users to the test. And so I actually went to Dave Relic. He has this little company, Trusted something or another, Trusted something, And so I brought him in and I said, I want to do internal, external, and full social engineering. No hold bar. Do whatever you can. I want you to try and get my users. And so I brought him in and he did all of that stuff. And he came on site for the internal pen test, right? And so I'm freaking out, checking software, making sure it's, it's Dave Kennedy. I'm like walking with my cheeks, hi Dave! Making sure that everything's good. And he comes in and he brings Ryan, his associate, and I think some of you guys might have seen him at the TrustedSec table. And he brings Ryan in, and I'm going through security protocol. They've got their badges, everything, and I'm like, okay, so you don't have to go through the front desk every single time. Here's the code to the door. And I write it down on a sticky note, and I show it to them, just so that I will audibly give it, someone can't hear it. So they're like, okay. So I bring them over, show them the door, and we have employees coming in and out. I open the door, and Dave's like, oh, so you just enter 1, 2, 3, 4? And I'm like, and he totally blamed that on coffee. So if you want to socially engineer Dave Kennedy, do it before he's had coffee. So he totally gave out the code, so I made him do this. But I tell you that story because I did bring Dave in, and they did do an assessment on us. And it was about the same time that the global security report came out, the DBIR came out. Oh, sorry, did we just do that? Oh, hi Dave. How's it going? What was it? Was it 3936 was your code, right? Your code was 3936 that you told all of my employees?
Oh, yeah. It wasn't that loud. It's kind of like,
yeah, only about 4 people heard it. It's fine, no big deal. So Dave came in. It was about the time the DBIR came out and the global security report came out. And he did the assessment, right? And I'm expecting him to find a lot of different stuff. And I'll talk a little bit later about what he did find, but regardless of what he found, in his summary, he said that the detection process that we had in place ruled out anything that they would have found, because we identified it immediately. The moment that he plugged in his Ethernet cable to our ports, I brought over an email to him saying, I got you already. And, anything he did. In fact, one of the users got so irritated with him, she sent an email saying, is he about done banging, messing around with my computer? I'd like to get some work done. and what I didn't understand is what was I doing different? Because I didn't go to school for security. I learned all this stuff online, so what am I doing different that a lot of companies are missing? From the global security report, it says 64% of businesses did not detect they had a breach until after 90 days. 90 days! And I'm like, whoa! In the DBIR, it says approximately 70% of the breaches were discovered by external parties who notified the victim. I'm like, please make it stop. That's a real bird, by the way. It's not photoshopped. And so, and I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing wrong? What are we doing different? If you look here for the DBIR, I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but the external notifications are much higher than anything internal. In fact, if you look at your monitoring service that's external, it's less than 1%. Unrelated party accounts for overall 34% of breach notifications. People don't have a clue as to what's going on their network. They don't have an idea. And I was like, why is this the case? We have these tools, right? We have these tools. So, and I don't have a huge budget. I can't afford some of these tools. And I'm like, if we can do this, why can't other organizations? You know, is it because we're small? Is it because they're so big that they can't do it? So I'm like, well, what's the problem here, man? You have one freaking job to do, and you can't even do it right. Is it because they're poorly implemented tools? Is it because they're lack of implemented tools? Let me pause it by saying I believe it's a perception issue. A lot of you guys have heard of this one, the security by obscurity. You can't see me. We're safe this way. No one knows about us. We don't build rockets. Then you have security by vicinity. We're secure because we put it in the cloud. We're secure because nobody in our field is getting hacked. So we don't have to worry about it. I actually had, we process credit card payments for our clients, and they have the merchant account, right? So they have to go through the SAQ and all this other fun stuff. And they're like, can you just attest for us that that we're PCI compliant because you are?
No.
I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, no, I can't do that. But can we just like umbrella underneath you? No! And I hung up on them. But I honestly believe that there's a third problem. The third problem is security by divinity. We don't have a clue what we're doing, we're just praying nothing bad happens. And that's what it ends up being. We know that there's a big risk, but we don't have a clue as to what's going on, and we have no idea how to manage it. I don't have the budget to get a lot of these $1,000 SIM things, so we're just praying and hoping nothing bad happens. We're hoping that it's not an APT. We're hoping that it's not China or whomever, or the NSA, trying to break into us. And this is the point of my talk. It's time to get intimate with your network. My wife doesn't like this one either. It's to get to know every pimple, every crease, every part of it. To get really intimate. I actually had a technician that was working for me, and he was odd. He was in the storage closet, and one of our employees came in, and the light was off. She turned it on, he was sitting on the floor with the cables. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm doing cable management like Ben asked me. She's like, oh. So she goes to leave, and he's like, can you turn the light back off? So he got intimate with the cables. You know, and I talked to some people about this, about the idea, and they're like, well, you know, Ben, I've got 10,000 endpoints. How in the world am I going to get intimate with it? Well, you want to, at the very least, get intimate with the critical parts of your network. The stuff that would basically shut your organization down if you don't know what's going on. One of these breaches, I'm working in healthcare, and the breach notification and the amount of money that they spend on this is ridiculous. It's the fines, the identity theft protection, it would ruin an organization and just shut it down. So at the very least, you want to get the critical parts of your network. So for those who haven't done any type of self-assessment or penetration testing, I had actually signed up for offensive security certified pen testing course. And I knew that it was going to be ridiculously hard and everything like that. And I had never done anything like that. And I just hopped into OSCP just because I thought it'd be cool. And I cried a lot. And so I learned about the penetration test for execution standard. And I learned about all the different pieces that were in there. And my talk today isn't talking about all of this. In fact, it's only talking about one portion of it. It's the vulnerability analysis. And I want to make it very clear that what I'm about to talk to you guys about is not, it's not supplementary to a penetration test. It's complementary. It's something that you guys are going to be doing on a consistent basis just to make sure that everything's working right. In fact, even with the vulnerability analysis, this is the roadmap for doing that using the p-test. And we're not even going through all that. We're going to zoom in a little bit. And then we're going to zoom in just a little bit more. And this is where we're talking about today. And the reason why I'm doing this is because this is all I'm doing at my organization, especially when Dave came in. Is just doing the automated scanning. So I want to make it perfectly clear that at the end of this talk, you're not going to be OSCP certified. You're not going to, if you're not already. You're not going to get a CISSP if you're not already. In fact, the only 4-letter acronym that you're going to get at the end of my talk is GTFO. So, disclaimer, I'm not a professional penetration tester, but I am staying at the Hyatt, so I can do just about anything. Don't attempt anything unless you have written permission. If your boss says, yeah, go ahead, just get it in writing, though, seriously. You want to have that just to cover yourself because a lot of this stuff can do damage. And don't do this on production first. Use a test environment. I wish I had given my talk to me before I had taken OSCP. I had done OSCP. I was on chapter 3, and I was super awesome now. I was like, pen test. I was like, dude, I'm in D303. And so one of the samples was, you know, try this out on one of your networks. I'm like, okay, sure. I'll do this. And so I was trying to do a password audit on my domain controller because I wanted to see if my passwords were strong. The managers had all gone out to lunch because I decided to stay back because I wanted to do this pen test on my network just to see what it was. And I fired off a tool, and this happened. That's my domain controller. In the middle of the day.
So not both of your domain controllers.
The information system manager calls me, it's like, hey, I'm getting alerts. I'm like, it's fine. He came back in, I'm like, yeah, one of the guys over there, they screwed around with it. So please, okay, just understand that you can do damage, put it in a VM, you know, learn some of this stuff in a test environment before you put this on production. So with the self-assessment, it begins with many different things. The first of all is getting to know your ports, getting to know what to open. One of the tools to do that is Nmap. But how many of you guys ever heard of a tool called FirePlotter? See, most people have not even heard of this thing. FirePlotter is a great tool that allows you to connect to your ASA. You can see all inbound ports and all outbound ports. And you can name those ports based on your business model. And whenever a new port pops up, it just shows up as the number, so you immediately know something new is connected to your network. It also shows you your bandwidth, like how much throughput you're doing for each individual port, and it creates a baseline. Like I know my baseline is no greater than 5,000 outbound. So when I came in one morning and it was 22,000, I'm like, what the heck happened? And so I go over and the CEO is like, oh yeah, I downloaded something. And no, let's not do that. So get to know your ports, get to know what's open. Get to know your logs. And I'm not talking about your syslogs, I'm not talking about your Apache logs, I'm actually talking about your event logs. A lot of times people think about the event logs as a reactive tool. Something's gone wrong, now I need to go back through those and figure out what's going on. I actually use my event logs as a proactive tool. There's a program called Health Monitor, and it started as an open source project in 2007, I think it was. And they've stopped development on it, but we still use it because it's great. When I do an expose scan on my network, I actually get event logs emailed to me indicating that it's been done. And so when Dave came in and did it, I got those same alerts. So I knew what was going on because I had seen those alerts before. Get to know your software. How many of you guys have heard of 9-9? See? Now tell me, is that not the best thing you've added to your network?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Patching Windows is not enough. It's not enough. And I told you I'd go back to the Dave Kennedy story about what he found. Well, we had patched Windows 100%. There was nothing left unpatched. The problem was that when my manager, who reports to me, had re-imaged one of our servers, he put an older version of Symantec on it. And for the first 2 days, Dave's sitting there and he's trying to get in, and we're all this way, when we're frustrated, we tend to slouch, right? We're like this, and this is Dave the entire time. And so day 2, I decided I'm gonna be a smart ass. And I go in there and I'm like, do you want some help? Do you want me to do that for you? And then the 3rd day comes in and he's all uptight, cheeks tight together, he's typing away, I'm like, oh crap, you got me. And so sure enough, he used that as Symantec exploit, and that's what breached our network. You gotta know your software. This thing has like 60 different software applications that you can push against your entire domain all at once. You can push every single one of these things. You only have to download it once, it stays in a repository, and you push it to your entire network. It's got Java, it's got everything in there. It's a great tool, and the thing about it is, the developers are great. If you have something on there that you like, you tell them to add it, and they add it right to the list. You get to know your software in your network. 9-9. I have a link to it at the end there. The other thing is getting to know your opponent. I told you that I used OSCP because I wanted to learn the offensive side. In my opinion, for me to do a good defense, I really had to know what the offense was doing. I didn't expect to be professional at it. I didn't expect to be great at it to where I could just pop a box in 5 minutes. I didn't care. That wasn't my goal. My goal wasn't to become a penetration tester. My goal was to get a basic understanding of how the offensive side thinks, of what the bad guys are thinking. Because you can have a great defense, and you can put it all over here, and the offense is attacking you over here. Yeah, your defense is great, but you're still getting owned. And so, Trustwave had released this thing inside of a hacker's playbook, and a really good idea and foundation of starting to think about the ways that your opponents are thinking about you. So these are the tools that I had talked to you about today. So Nexpose, Rapid7, I love Nexpose. I know there's a lot of Temple people here, and I had used Nessus a long time ago, and I'm sorry. I just didn't have a good experience. So if you got to talk to me and help me out with some getting Nessus up to speed, that's fine. But right now, I love Nexpose. So there's Nessus out there too. Purple Health Monitor is the one, and that's on SourceForge. Nmap and ZenMap. I love those tools for checking out my ports, and then 9-9 for keeping all of my software up to date. So I want to talk to you about fire drills. I just wanted to let that one sink in just a little bit. There's a fire! Get out of the building! We like fire drills. Because when we do things like this, when we run an Expo scan, when we run an Nexus scan, or we ping the ports, or whatever the case may be, we want to know how our team is going to react. And we don't tell them that we're doing it. We want to see if they're going to do anything about it. The event logs are all going crazy. They're getting emails all over the place. Are they doing anything? So it does many things. It checks to one, are your tools working? You just spent $15,000 on this. Well, let's see if it's going to work. Let's attack that sucker and see what's going to happen. Let's run a scan against it. Does your team react appropriately? Do they put it in a queue and let it sit for a week? Or do they actually go and investigate it? The other part of this is that you get to become intimate with your network. What happens? What services are responding to a ping? What services are responding to an Nmap scan? What EXE actually responds to the Nmap scan? Do you know? Do you know which ones are actually talking out there? And what's your incident response plan? And is it actually working? Is anything that you've implemented so far providing your company anything besides what the dashboard is telling you? Yeah, it's on there, it's got a green blinky light, we're good. So this is the whole point of those fire drills. But you've got to have there's some pitfalls to avoid. One, you've got to verify the scope. You don't do any of these types of tests or analysis against a /24. I found that out the hard way. When you do this against a /24, especially if an AS400, don't touch an AS400, okay? Because it's like an hour to get that thing back up. Your printers will also spit out crap, just non-stop. So you make sure it's small, focus on one thing you're trying to do. Don't do untested tools. And security results. You know, I went and cracked a bunch of the hashes from my domain controller. Well, that's now just a text file on my system. So you have to think about that. So make sure you secure any type of results and don't dosh yourself because that's very easy to do. At the end of the global security report, I liked what they had to say, and this really hit home with me. It says the ultimate goal should be to develop an environment in which security events are discovered innately by both responsible security professionals or others in the organization. It didn't say buy our product. It didn't say buy another thing. It said develop an environment. And that environment very well may be those tools. It very well may be the SIM and the DLP and the SLP and the whatever P. And it may very well be those tools. But it doesn't stop there. They want you to develop an environment of both people and technology that allows you to identify the security events innately. And that's getting intimate with your network. That's knowing what's going on. And so I thought back to this and I'm like, I like that, so what can I do? So after David left, I came up with an idea. I said, this is great. I like this idea, I like what people are trying to do. There's a problem. Most of the organizations in those graphs are not technically adept enough to fire up Kali, to run Nmap, to run Expose. They don't understand it. Or maybe they don't have the experience to do so. And they'd love to, but they don't have the time and effort to take the classes. And so I'm like, what can I do? I'm like, let's focus on Windows, okay? Because we know that a majority of those are the Windows boxes. I'm like, what can I do? So I started back in March, I started writing a SIM application. And I was like, I'm just going to start writing this, and I'm going to give it away for free. And I was just going to put everything baked in, and I begun coding on it. And again, I've been writing programs since I was 12, so this one doesn't delete any of your files, so I just began writing it, and I was going on it, and I was honored to speak at B-Sides Detroit. And that's when I met this guy by the name of Matt Johnson. He's actually speaking tomorrow at 2 o'clock. You won't want to miss his talk. But Matt Johnson had talked on PowerShell. Hey, this guy's incredibly intelligent when it comes to PowerShell and everything that's going on. And so I'm like, I hate PowerShell. Really don't like it. They're so pedantic with their verb noun crap. You know, I just want to name it X, not get things. You know, I was like, this is dumb, but I'll go anyways, just because I want to be nice. And let me tell you, what he presented in his talk really inspired me. He had talked about this organization called Posh. And it was created by a guy named Will Steele. And he really had a vision to create a community-based system that people could grow to actually build their defense and have it be community-driven. Unfortunately, Will passed away and was not able to see the fruition of that. And Matt continued on and decided to take what he had and to put that into PowerShell modules, things that you can install. And I saw it, and I'm like, this is brilliant. There's one problem. It's incredibly difficult to get up and running. And I'm like, we're staying back to the same point where we were before, where we're giving more command line tools to other people, and we're like, yeah, here, you just have to do this, and you do this, and then this, And then you do this, and then it'll work. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And so I came up to him and I said, I want your project and my project to get married. I went down. It was very awkward for everyone else except for Matt. He was like, okay, cool. And so after that, and after months of development, I'm pleased to announce that we have the beta version of what we're calling our Posh framework. And this is something that I've been working on and I'm very passionate about. And so I'm actually going to show it to you guys now. This is my first demo ever.
Good luck.
Thanks. All right, so this is the Posh framework, and I designed this with the idea of trying to bridge the gap between those who like the command line to those who like to use the mouse and double click and everything like that. And it's written entirely in C#, and it's only .NET framework. There's no third-party tools, so if I couldn't do it on my own by rewriting the code, I just didn't implement it. And so when it starts up, it'll actually detect your entire network and detect the computer that you're on, and then you can utilize this to select a host or whatever. So if you have a domain controller, it'll actually list your individual domains over there. Is my mouse showing up again? Okay, good. So, but it does have a PowerShell tab, and I wanted this to be more than just an output thing. And so I spent a long time to get this to the point where you can do things in the same way that you would in PowerShell. The nice thing about this is that, like for the Posh sec, you don't have to worry about installing anything. You download this and install it or run it, and it's got Posh sec pre-built in. So it's got commands and everything on here, and if you've ever used the PowerShell ISE, you kind of see that. And so, you know, it's like, okay, I've got get drives. Well, you could type get drives. You know, if I typed R, I wouldn't have to autocomplete R logos. Okay? But you could also double-click it if you really wanted to. But it didn't stop there. I was like, well, I want to make sure I have all sorts of functionality, you know, like just that. Anything else that came with it. And that was good, and then you can write PowerShell scripts and you can run them and do whatever. But I didn't want to stop there. I'm like, well, that's great. So I've got these PowerShell scripts and everything else like that. I'm like, but I wanted to do more. So I added stuff like, well, let's say your script wanted to say something. Let's say your script wanted to do an alert. Oops. Now, that's cool and everything, and you can see that. So that's within the application, but let's go ahead and take it over to just, you know, a PowerShell script. So I just import the PS framework into my script, and I do PS message box.show A Derby. This is awesome. Right? So now I come over here and I run my Derby script. And it runs entirely on PowerShell. The nice thing about this too is that when you run a script, like I've got my infinite loop here one, so it'll actually take it and run, and it's there, but you can still type commands here. So you can have scripts running, whatever the case may be. So a little bit of, you know, I wanted to show you just a little bit of the capabilities, but now let's tie this back to my talk. So I wrote this monitor reports script, and basically what it does is it uses a lot of the built-in PowerShell functions like you know, get open ports, whatever. And I also have a status update so you can communicate with the application what's happening. So like I'm setting a baseline, pausing for 2 seconds, whatever. So if I fire this off here, and by the way, I added Control-L to clear the screen, which is not present in the PowerShell one. So if I run this, you can see, you know, setting a baseline, whatever. And then it's going to sit there and monitor for any type of changes in my ports. So let's pop over to Cali, right? And let's go ahead and do, let's make sure. So let's go ahead and just do this mmap, right? So I'm just going to do an mmap scan. And so now I'm sitting over here, and that's why I learned from earlier. And so I'm just doing an MF scan. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not attacking my box. I am simply doing a scan. And boom, I've got all of these alerts indicating that somebody is doing something on my network. And these are all the processes that are accessing it. And that's all through PowerShell. I wanted to create something that anyone in the organization or the community could access and be able to share and put scripts out there. Do this for your event logs, do this for anything else like that. Do it for installed software and give you the ability for anyone to write a script to help maintain this and give you visual feedback so you can see what's going on. You can start to get intimate with your network with just this tool. And so I wanted to give you guys that ability and to have everyone start to contribute to it so that way you can actually see, hey, there's something going on, I'm getting all these alerts. Well, when you do a test, when you do an Nmap, and you look at what happens, the next time you see this, you're like, oh, it looks like someone's scanning me because I'm getting SVC host responding on port 33813, which is very odd. Most people don't even know what SVC host is doing, yet that it's responding to an Nmap scan. And so that was the whole idea about this PoshSec framework. And I wanted people to get really excited and want to be able to contribute. And this can be done for more than just defense. You can utilize this software for anything. You can utilize it for defensive or offensive. And I'm exposing parts of this to it. So the whole idea is that you could set up these things, get your host, have your PowerScript read the hosts, and do all the activities for you so you can do it all from within a single application. That was the idea, was to give something back to the community. So it wasn't just me saying, hey, you guys need to do better jobs of, watching over your network. Oops. So that's the PowerShell framework, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give people the ability to really focus on getting intimate with your network, to learn it. Stop making excuses about, well, I don't know any of this stuff, or I don't want to know, or I really don't care, because the problem is that when we don't care, and we don't know what's going on in the network, bad things happen. And again, this does not replace your annual pen test. This doesn't replace anything. The whole idea about you doing stuff to your network is allowing you to know what it looks like. When you run just a simple nmap command, what does it look like? Are there any event logs? When you run a Nexpo scan, is there anything going on? It's okay to touch yourself. Well, your network at least. We want you to touch yourself. And in fact, Nikita said, I should make a t-shirt that says, I can touch myself. And I'm like, well, on the back I'll put, but you can't. And everyone wants you guys to get excited about that too, because it is okay. So that in conclusion, I want to leave some time for feedback, and we can go back to the framework and answer guys' questions and stuff. But as funny as the talk title is, I want you guys to understand my passion here. I want you guys to know that it's okay. Do it in a test environment first, but learn. Your opponents know. Why shouldn't you? Why shouldn't you know how they're doing it so that you know what to look for? If you don't know what to look for, how do you know your defense is working? So, a few announcements with this talk. All of these people really helped me get this talk together and in order, and I really want you guys to take a look at them. If you're not following them on Twitter, please do. Security Boy, Wolfgang, Gorlick, Jason Street, Elizabeth Martin, Rogue Clown, do Corey, I just love that guy. DerbyCon, of course. And then these are the PoshSec developers, and understand that the framework that I developed is built on their PowerShell modules that they developed. So it's Matt Johnson, he's going to be doing a talk tomorrow, Wolfgang Gorlick, Security Boy, Morty's Prime, RJ DeSara. So if you want to play around with this is PoshSec Beta. And we plan on releasing the full version at B-Side Chicago next year. So it is out on GitHub right now. I uploaded it right before my talk. It's all C#, so get Visual Studio, Express, it'll compile. We will be putting an MSI once we do the 1.0 release, but for right now, because it's beta, we're doing all the code changes. You know, it's just in Visual Studio. You hit run and everything works. So with that, this is how you guys can kind of get a hold of me and anything that's going on. So I want to give you guys a little bit of extra time here for any type of questions that you guys might have. Yes?
You talk about building defense and such. How do you get upper management buy-in to the process to actually get this started in an organization?
How do you get the upper management involved in buying into the process? Well, with the process, or because I mean this is free, so
before you get in touch with stuff, you need to ask permission from the
sure, absolutely. So, and that's where you do your test environment, right? So you do your test environment, and you're like, look, if we can do this, we can have a better understanding of what's going on in our network, and we don't have to be one of these 35% that didn't know that they had been breached and then breached for 90 days. And they love infographics. I think there was a guy here a couple of years ago by the name of Jason something or another, and he said, if you need to make pie charts, make them pie charts. Make them a freaking pie, I think is what he said. Yeah. So show them what they need to see and do it in a test environment so you don't mess around with it. Yes.
Couldn't you do that by creating your certain items that are your critical items in your virtual environment and then putting it into your process and do a demonstration for them?
That's absolutely, yes, absolutely you could. And that's the way I would start it out with and say, look, these are our critical processes, and watch what happens when I run this scan. All these things light up. Now just imagine if we can put this on production, and I've shown you I know what I'm doing on the test, so let's put it on production so that way we can have a one step ahead of all of the attackers and anything else that may go on. Yes?
I have a first of all, they're trying to give me vulnerability management right now. I'm not sure I'm saying yes. We're in debate. This is a very useful presentation for me right now. But we're not in a homogeneous environment. So that's great. PowerShell would work great for probably a third of my production servers. But like in terms of integrating that information, getting it out and throwing it into something like Splunk, like does this thing send stuff out?
Oh yeah. Well, that's the whole great thing about PowerShell. So you can export it to XML, you can export it to CSV or any type of thing, and then you can take that data file and move it over. What you saw is not the sum of its code. Think of it like Metasploit and Armitage for PowerShell.
Okay.
You have a bunch of people writing modules for Metasploit all the time. Well, now we can have people writing modules for PowerShell and allowing that to be part of the community. So as people submit modules, we can make that available to everyone and say, here, look, here's how you take care of your event logs. Here's how you take care of your software. Here's how you take care of this. Hey, we found this new exploit. Look, here's a PowerShell module to kind of detect that new exploit. Yeah.
So you could write a great module like a resource depleter where windows just keep popping up on everything, everywhere, all the time.
You absolutely could, and you can use this for that. Did you reboot your computer? Any more questions? Guys, I really appreciate you guys, your time and everything else like that, and I hope you guys get a chance to play with me.
I need to like, so I don't know.